Lines are now closed. Do not call or text. The following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. 98FM.
This is 98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Thursday evening, Thursday, the 23rd day of February 2017. And how are you tonight? This is Adrian Kennedy. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks. We're here until midnight tonight. Coming up on tonight's programme, we're going to be talking a fair bit about drugs, as you're about to hear, including a little bit later on a new methadone substitute that is said to be amazing but costs an awful lot more. Should it be made available here in Ireland? We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. We'll also be talking about whether or not it is irresponsible of parents to allow their children walk home alone. We had hoped to get around to that last night, never got around to it, but we are going to be dealing with that tonight. That and much more between now and midnight tonight.
98FM. The show getting Dublin talking.
98FM's Dublin Talks.
I'm Adrian Kennedy, and that man there is Jeremy. How are you, Jeremy?
Yeah. Caught on the hop, that was.
Caught on the hop, you were indeed.
I was making adjustments.
Making adjuststants.
How are things? Everybody okay?
That storm today, yeah?
Doris.
I
wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for Facebook, by the way.
People posting.
And I want to thank everybody, the thousands of you who took to Facebook this morning to tell us that it was windy and that there was a storm, because I live in a metal box under the ground with no windows.
Yes.
I had no idea. I didn't hear the wind. Do people think that other people are oblivious to what's going on in the world? Like when snow falls.
Oh my God, it's snowing.
It's snowing.
Yeah, like who knew?
I hate social media. I'm shutting down my Facebook page.
Anyway, it got me thinking, that storm that gave us a good blowing earlier on, yeah?
Yes.
Storm Doris. It's not a very manly name for a storm, is it?
It's a woman's name.
It packed a fierce punch, all right, yeah?
She sure did.
We had trees on our road outside the house, down and everything else, yeah?
Yes.
So she packed a fair punch. But Doris is a name.
Yeah, like when I think of Doris, I think of this.
Yeah.
When I was just a little...
Yeah, Doris Day.
Doris Day.
I mean, she was angelic, she was gorgeous and all that, yeah?
Yeah.
Not a fierce... I think they need to come up with better names for storms. Doris just doesn't really work for me.
We just do more Doris Day songs.
Over the hill,
Woo!
where the engine arrows are thicker than porcupine quill.
Well, that sounds so old. Well, it is so old.
How old is that song?
Anyway, it's donkey's years old. Anyway, it got me to thinking about how do they come up with the names for storms? Because Storm Doris...
It's done in an alphabetical way, so the next storm will be the letter E.
Yeah, I know that, but there are certain names that just shouldn't be in the list, is what I'm trying to say to you.
Doris being one of them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Now...
Does anybody remember, what was the storm that Ireland had years ago?
Hurricane
Was that it?
Yeah, Hurricane Charlie, yeah. Now, Charlie, it's a man's name. Charlie. How are you, Charlie?
Is that the only hurricane we ever had?
I think we've had others, but Hurricane Charlie was the most famous one back in 1986 when Bray was flooded to bits.
Yeah, you should never really call your child after a hurricane. Like, don't call your child Katrina.
Yeah, maybe not.
Probably not appropriate, is it? Was there ever a Storm Jeremy?
I don't know. What, Storm Jeremy?
Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
All over in 2 minutes, Storm
exactly.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something that appeared in the news today. Now, this is something that's happening in America, but I think it's relevant here, and it's something I've always had a very strong opinion about, because a lawmaker in the United States wants to restrict the sale of cannabis paraphernalia. Now, if you don't know,
this is bongs and stuff like that.
If you don't know what cannabis paraphernalia is, and I don't think it's maybe somebody can fill me in on the law, because I'm not a cannabis smoker. I'm not a waster. I'm not a loser.
Sorry, not everybody who smokes cannabis is a waster or a loser.
Generally they are.
No, they're not.
Anyway, cannabis paraphernalia is stuff like bongs. Sorry, how does Katie know all about this?
How do you know all about this, Katie? Because she's human.
Well, a lawmaker in the United States by the name of Jody Hack wants to introduce a bill that would ban or curb the sale of bongs and pipes and all other sorts of paraphernalia that people use to smoke cannabis. Now, there are many, many shops in the city centre that sell this stuff. I don't think it's illegal to sell a bong, is it?
I don't think it is either, to be quite honest.
For those of you who don't, because I know not everybody knows what a bong is. For those of you who don't know what a bong is a large glass sort of, how would you describe a bong? It's a large glass pipe.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it is?
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
And cannabis smokers will use a bong in which to inhale cannabis if they don't like smoking cigarettes. Is that correct to say?
I think so. I've never used one myself, so I don't really know. But what's the point?
The point is that this lawmaker in the United States wants to curb the sale of bongs and cannabis paraphernalia because he believes that kids often purchase paraphernalia under the premise that they are going to smoke marijuana with it. This should not be accessible to our children, says Mr. Jody Hack. Now, I happen to agree with him. I think cannabis paraphernalia should be banned because more or less what you're doing is, and I don't know why it's not banned, it's like selling a gun without bullets, is it not?
Yeah, but it's useless without bullets.
But you can get the bullets.
A gun is useless without bullets.
But you wouldn't sell a gun without bullets. So why are we selling bongs in shops and all of this stuff? In other words, Adrian,
what are you getting at?
If an 18-year-old goes into a shop to buy a bong, what's he buying it for?
Decoration on his mantelpiece?
No, honestly, what's he buying the bong for?
Sometimes they look nice, I don't know.
Stop. Nobody has a bong on their mantelpiece. You know what I mean? If an 18-year-old is going into a shop to buy a bong, he's going in to buy a bong because he wants to smoke cannabis. And we are facilitating this. And yes, because the pro-cannabis brigade are an awful bunch of snowflakes. They hate being told that what they do is illegal. Well, it is illegal. And it turns your brain to mush. And I'm sorry, and I am educated. I've read plenty of books on cannabis. So don't start coming at me with your facts. You know nothing about cannabis. You never smoked the drug, dude. You don't know what it's like. Well, I don't need to know what it's like. The fact of the matter is, it's an addictive drug. It's an illegal drug. And we should not be facilitating people smoking it by selling paraphernalia.
Okay, you're saying like bongs and stuff like that. As somebody texted in just a second ago, as long as they're not using the bong for anything illegal, then it should be legal to sell.
No.
Hang on. I could argue that I'm buying a bong because it's decorative furniture on my mantelpiece. Who are you to tell me that that's not? You're nobody to tell me that. I could happen to like the shape of a bong and want it on my mantelpiece.
Okay, let's start selling syringes then.
Why would you want to do that? You can buy syringes, you fool.
Where?
You can get syringes, no problem.
Yeah, but I assume you need a doctor's prescription or something like that. Here's the thing, and cannabis cannabis smokers will often tell you, cannabis isn't an addictive drug. I can stop smoking it at any time. It's like not addictive at all. Cannabis is an addictive drug, and I'll tell you how I know this. I've spoken to a fella that I know very well. I didn't actually know he was a cannabis smoker until a couple of weeks ago. But he happened to tell me he doesn't drink. And that's how the conversation came up. I said, hey, what do you do on the night out if you don't drink? I said, well, I have a couple of joints. This particular fella, who I won't name on the radio, but he claims that he's not addicted to cannabis. He claims that cannabis is an addictive drug. Yes, he cannot leave the house in the morning without having a joint. He can't go to bed without having a joint, and he can't take a lunch break from work without having a joint.
There's a difference between can't and doesn't want to.
No, I'm sorry, it's an addictive drug. If it's not an addictive drug, why can cannabis smokers not just stop? Just like that. Do you not believe it's addictive?
No, because I've known people who just said, I'm fed up with that, and they knock it on the head.
Right.
It becomes a little bit of addictive if you're rolling spliffs with tobacco in them because the nicotine becomes addictive. But I've known people who just knock it on the head.
Does anybody agree with that? Text us 0877 98 98 98. Do you believe that cannabis is an addictive drug? Because as I said, this fella can't. Okay, this fella that I know, how come he can't leave the house in the morning without smoking a joint?
Like I said, it's a difference between can't and doesn't want to.
No, he has to have one before he goes to work every day.
Has to have.
That's what he says. He has to have one before going to bed. As soon as he gets his lunch break from work, has to have one on his lunch break.
Really?
Smokes it at the back of the factory where he works.
I can't answer that.
And that's not an addiction.
I know cigarettes are addictive. I know caffeine can be addictive. I know alcohol can be addictive. And I would argue that maybe cannabis can be addictive, but isn't necessarily addictive. Yeah? I like my cup of coffee in the morning. I'm not addicted to the coffee. If I don't have coffee in the morning, my world isn't going to fall apart.
Yeah, but
there are other people who are strung out in caffeine.
But when you hear about most cannabis smokers, or talk to most cannabis smokers, they've been smoking it for years and years and years. Why? Why can't they give it up?
Maybe they don't want to.
No, I'd put it to you as that they can't. That you are addicted to cannabis and you don't want to admit it. I'm sorry. Anybody agree with me or disagree with me?
Text or WhatsApp your opinion to 0877 98 98 98. I'd love to hear from you on this. He's basically saying that cannabis is addictive. I don't believe it is.
I mean, here we go, Keith. Jeremy is talking out of his hole. How, Keith? What am I saying that's completely wrong here? Absolutely nothing. I believe that cannabis is... I've read enough reports that cannabis is addictive. I believe it's a gateway drug as well. Yet there are shops selling bongs, and by selling bongs, you are more or less normalising the sale of cannabis. And what you're saying is, you know what, it's okay.
You see, when we get to the day that you're going to decide what sort of products get sold in shops, and I'm using a bong as an example, if somebody wants that as a vase on their mantelpiece, then who are you to tell them?
Nobody wants a bong as a vase on their mantelpiece.
But who are you to start dictating that they can't have it on their mantelpiece? Donald Trump? Okay.
No, I just think certain things...
Jay, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jay?
All right.
Jay, cannabis is addictive according to my learned friend here.
It can be.
Yeah, that's what I said. And I said...
Yeah, I myself now, I'm a regular cannabis smoker, but every now and then I do take a break from it. And I do get withdrawal symptoms. Now, not to the extent that Jeremy was talking about there, that I can't go to work without them. That's ridiculous. I don't smoke during the day anyway. But
So you can stop at any stage, can you?
I can, yes, but there will be withdrawals for me. Not everybody gets them, though. What happens to me is when I stop, I can't sleep at night for a while. It's hard to get to sleep, and I get night sweats. Might last a week. That's about it.
And that's it. And then you're over it.
Yeah, but there's none of this rubbish that I can't go to work without it. I can't have a break without it. That's just Jeremy's mate being an asshole.
No. I think that's a lot of cannabis smokers that can't do this particular.
No, they can be choose not to.
Yes, that's the argument I'm after making with you, Jeremy.
This particular mate of mine cannot go out for a night out without smoking a joint.
Or chooses not to.
That's his choice.
Yeah,
that's not a physical addiction.
No, but then he has the cheek to turn around and say, "Oh, I can stop at any stage." He can't.
But he probably can. He just doesn't want to.
But why would you not want to? It's bad for you.
Why would you want to?
Hang on. People drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes.
Anything that's bad for you, Jay.
Jeremy, I'll explain.
Jay, no, sorry. I firmly believe that anything that's bad for you, people want to give up. People want to give up.
Let me just explain it to you like this, right? You can go out and have 10 pints and you wake up hungover. That's withdrawal symptoms.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
It's the same thing.
Well, so you're saying it can be addictive. Anthony, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Anthony?
How are you?
Now, Anthony, you smoked it for years and gave it up, no problem.
Yeah, well, like that, like kind of when you were around, like that sort of scene when I was a kid and stuff. But yeah, one day about 23, I just kind of didn't bother anymore.
I've had enough of that.
Yeah, that was it. And I couldn't give up cigarettes after that. And then it took me another 2 years after to finally give up cigarettes.
But do you think that cannabis is an addictive drug?
No, because like that, I found I could have it when I wanted, and when I didn't want to have it, I didn't.
But it was the tobacco is what you were addicted to.
Yeah, no, I couldn't give up tobacco now. It took me 2 to 3 years after trying hard to give up. Now I never tried to give up.
No. You see, I'm completely confused here, Anthony, because you smoked it for a few years, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you say that one day you just woke up and you said, this is not for me, and you were able to give it up straight away, yeah?
I know loads of people like that.
Yeah, but hang on, why didn't you do that day one?
Because he didn't want to.
But sure, you knew
he chose not to.
No, you knew it was...
Hang on. No, you knew Stop being such a pompous fool. No, we all know that there are things we do in our lives that are bad for us. Drinking alcohol isn't particularly good for you. People shouldn't really do it, but we do it.
No, but if you...
Don't be lecturing people on their own personal choices.
Well, no, it was something I enjoyed as an experience, and that's why I done it. It was an experience I enjoyed when I was doing it, and then... When I got that bit older and I was away from that scene, I didn't do it any longer.
But you had that doesn't make sense to me, because you had the ability to give it up. You claim, now I don't believe it, that you were able to give it up straight away. But you say you had the ability to give it up, yet you continue to do something that you knew was bad for your health. I don't get that.
No, because people like it. That's why. Not to give it up, because they like doing it.
What are you getting so annoyed for?
Because you're lecturing people on, well, why don't you give it up? Because they don't want to.
But
just like people drink alcohol. They shouldn't drink alcohol because alcohol is doing you no favours at all. But they choose not to.
No, but I am an alcohol drinker, yeah. But I can go.
But you're an anal alcohol drinker. You lecture other people.
I am an anal alcohol.
Yeah, you lecture other people on drinking alcohol.
The last alcoholic drink.
Sorry, Katie's agreeing in my ear here.
Don't care.
You were drunk in the party last week.
Casey's a social smoker. Those people annoy me as well. They're the bottom rung of the ladder, if you ask me. The fact is, I can be around people drinking. I can go out for a night out and I don't have to have a drink. That's called control.
Aren't you great though?
But this particular fella can't leave us. I'm sorry. And I know there are many of you listening now who fall into this category.
What you're after saying to people is, you know it's bad for you, why do you do it? You can argue that about so many things. You know having a burger isn't great for you, you do it. You know having a drink isn't great for you, you do it. Don't be lecturing people on making choices in their lives that you don't agree with.
The bottom line is, and you shouldn't be comparing alcohol to cannabis because one is an illegal substance and one is a legal substance.
One causes more problems in society than the other does.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Which one do you think that is?
I don't. Sorry?
Which one do you think causes more problems in Irish society?
I'd say both.
No.
I'd say
absolutely
both.
Not. No.
And if you have any opinion,
and by the way, I'm not a smoker. I never have been, but I know.
Look how annoyed people get over this.
I know smoking cannabis doesn't cause as much problems in Irish society as drink.
You say that to someone who's on heroin now and started out as cannabis. I
don't deny it's a gateway drug. I don't deny that it's a gateway drug.
Well, I think you're giving across
alcohol.
You're giving across a very irresponsible attitude there towards something that's illegal.
You lecture people on why don't you give it up? Because they don't want to. End of.
But why would you not want to give up something that's bad for you?
Then stop drinking altogether.
What?
You stop drinking altogether. Give it up right now and never drink again because it's bad for you.
But I can.
Then do.
No bother.
But then do.
But however, fast food, I know fast food is bad for me, yeah? But I cannot give up fast food.
Why you're addicted to fast food?
Yeah, I kind of am. I'm addicted to chocolate. I want to be able to give it up, but I can't. But at least I have the balls.
You don't have you clearly don't know what an addiction is. There is no physical dependence on chocolate. There is no physical dependence.
Sorry, Adrian. Sorry.
So you get the shakes when you don't have a bar of chocolate.
You can be addicted.
Then you have a big problem.
Sorry, can you listen to me for a second? You know nothing about addiction. You can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to porn. Yes? You can be addicted to television. You can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to gambling. Anything in this world that makes you good or makes you happy, you can become addicted to. Do you not think there's such a thing as food addiction, Adrian?
I do, yeah.
But there, you just said there wasn't a few minutes ago.
But I don't believe it's a physical addiction. I don't believe if you don't have the food, you're going to have the shakes.
We'll come back to that.
Here, hang on. Kevin is on the line here. Kevin, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Kevin?
Adrian.
Good, Kev. What do you want to say?
Just saying, years ago I started smoking cannabis when I was 12. I smoked till I was 23.
Sorry, you did what?
I started smoking cannabis at 12. I actually smoked cannabis before I smoked cigarettes.
Where did you get cannabis at 12 years of age?
Come here.
Stop being so naive, will you?
No, what do you mean?
What bubble did you grow up in? It's not a fair question.
That is a fair question.
If you live in certain housing estates, the big lads of 16 are smoking the stuff, so the little lads of 12 are able to get it. Don't be so naive.
Well, I'm sorry. I grew up in a council estate that had its problems. I was never offered cannabis at 12. I have to be honest with you, Kevin. I may live in a bubble like it. I'd rather live in a bubble than live in your world because I wouldn't even know where to get cannabis now if I was asked to get it. If I wanted to smoke a joint now, I would know where to get it.
Well, as Adrian said, the bigger lads were smoking. So we were hanging around the bigger lads. We're just furious. Tried it.
Sorry, say that again.
But just like Adrian said, the bigger lads were smoking it, so all the younger lads were just around and furious, just tried it and liked it.
Okay, here's the message.
Were you addicted to it?
Well, I don't know if I was addicted to it, but as you were saying, your friend can't leave the house tomorrow without. Well, I was like that. I couldn't leave the house tomorrow, having a lunch, have one after work.
But Kevin, you were able to knock it on the head. You suddenly realised that I'm wasting my time here.
Straight away.
There you go.
My partner told me she was pregnant. That was it.
Jeremy, for many, many years I've tried to knock cigarettes on the head, and because it's an addiction, I haven't been able to. I've failed every single time. Yeah?
And I find it hard to give up the cigarettes too.
Yeah, no, it is very, very difficult. We're going to take a very quick break. Our telephone number is 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. We'll be back in a second.
This is 98FM's Dublin Talks
with Adrian Kennedy.
This is 98FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. He's Jeremy. And
there's war.
Adrian is a legend. Always the voice of reason and sense. What does Jeremy put up his... Oh, I can't read the rest of that message. In other words, your head's up your arse is really what that person is saying.
Olivia, I realise I'm going against the grain here, but that's my opinion. You know, that's how I feel. Do you want me just to agree with you, Olivia, to make you feel better? Because that's not the way the world works. Oliver. Oliver, you're on 98FM. Hi, Oliver.
How's it going?
Oliver, tell me about your son.
My son is smoking weed since he was young. He used to go from one house to another house and to another house, all just smoking weed. And he tried to give it up loads of times. And when he tries to give it up, he becomes an antichrist.
Okay, what age did he start smoking weed at?
I'd say about 14.
Okay, where did he get the money at 14 to buy cannabis?
He ran up debts.
No, but where did he get the money?
He ran up
we
debts.
Don't know.
Did you not just hear what he said? He ran up debts, which is what an awful lot of young people do.
So hang on, someone was giving him cannabis constantly without him paying any money.
That's it, and then they end up working for them.
And did you realise this was going on?
Are you that naive that you don't realise that's how the young people are getting involved in drug running and everything, big mules?
I heard you say when it's a 12-year-old, you can go to a place in Dublin and you see 10-year-olds selling it.
Again, Jeremy lives in a bit of a bubble. Sorry about that.
And were you aware at 12 years of age that your son was smoking cannabis?
He was 14. No, we didn't. We weren't aware of it for a couple of years later till we started realising all the symptoms then and stuff like that, and the aggression and they're two different. When they're on it as happy as when they're off it. Like Antichrist.
And can I ask you a personal question? I don't mean to be insulting here.
You're about to be, though.
No, I honestly don't mean to be.
How didn't you know?
No, that's not what I'm going to ask. I'm not going to be insulting Oliver, but it's an honest question. I think people want to know the answer. Do you feel as a failure of a parent because your son was smoking cannabis at 14? Because as a parent myself, I think, and I don't mean to be insulting, honestly.
But you are being insulting. Just those words that just come out of your gob.
You don't have to.
He's not.
I'm not being insulting. Jesus, Adrian, what sort of show do you think we're doing here? No, did you feel as a failure as a parent? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so he did, Adrian.
But why? Because he didn't cop that he was doing it.
Well, yeah.
Were you not a conniving, lying little brat when you were a teenager? Oh no, you were perfect. Well, actually, you were perfect. No, every other one of us lied when we were teenagers.
Listen to Oliver. He's saying it himself. He did feel that he failed as a parent because he should have spotted the warning signs, or had prior to him smoking his first joint.
What are those warning signs, Jeremy?
See, I didn't smoke it. So how am I meant to know the signs?
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
I only knew the signs when his lifestyle changed. When he changed, his attitude changed.
Yeah, no. Normally, what people say is that the first sign is mood swings and stuff like that.
Yeah, mood swings doesn't even come into it.
But every teenager has mood swings.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true. Jason, you're on 98FM. How are you, Jason?
All right, Adrian.
Jason, we're asking whether or not it's an addictive drug. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I smoked it for 15 years. It's psychologically addictive. It's not physically addictive. I just decided one day that I was sick of it. I was sick of paying for it. And I'm not doing it anymore. And I just stopped. And I really just stopped. Now, I never smoked a cigarette on its own. The only time I smoked a cigarette was in a joint. I used to kill myself.
Is that the bit that you were addicted to, the tobacco?
I reckon it was.
Yeah. Because I think that's a problem that a lot of people have. They may not smoke cigarettes, but they roll joints with tobacco in them, and it's that part of the
nicotine.
It's the nicotine that you get addicted to.
Exactly. And the physical withdrawal from nicotine is, your calf muscles, at night time, you have to kind of keep moving. It's a slight. It's ever so slight, but it lasts a couple of weeks.
But where this conversation started from, Jason. The fellow I know that has one for breakfast, one for lunch, and one before he goes to bed. He said to me, and that's where this whole thing came from. He said to me, "I can't function without a joint." That's what he said.
It's in his mind, Jeremy. Now, look, Jeremy, this is the first time I really disagreed with you, because I actually think you're very intelligent, and I've agreed with most of the stuff you say. But the pharmaceutical companies are now reluctantly admitting that cannabis has great medicinal properties. What these people are coming on talking about here is the abuse of cannabis, and it's like the abuse of anything. You drink too much, you can drink in moderation and it's grand. You can smoke cannabis, smoke weed in moderation and it's grand. What people tend to do is they go overboard with it. And, and I did it myself. I was spending I started off with 100 quid a week, right, for an ounce of hash. And then I went up there when people started changing to weed, and this hydroponic stuff. And, I started 150 quid every 3 days.
You know what? Adrian's for once. Adrian's actually right, Jason. I just realised something after this discussion. I did grow up in a bubble.
You absolutely did.
I was by no means protected, or my parents didn't. I had as free a childhood as anybody else did, and as I said, I grew up in an area where this would have been going on. But I was completely oblivious to this, and I still am. And Adrian, you sit there as the lefty parent, making out that your children were doing it at 14.
I didn't say they were doing it at 14. They never have, thank God.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. You're making out that you're this lefty. Yeah, I let my parents smoke. And
no, I've never smoked it, and to the best of my knowledge, my kids have never smoked it. Yes. Thank God.
Yeah, both of your children were angels.
But they weren't angels, no. They're not angels. Trust me, they're not angels. Well, drug dealers have control of these kids, says this texter, because of arseholes like Adrian. You don't see 10-year-olds selling cans. I don't know what that message is meant to be.
And another one, God love Jeremy, when his son gets bigger, he hasn't a clue what's going on there.
In fact, that's you, Sandra. And this is my point about Jeremy living in an absolute bubble.
What, Sandra, are you hoping that my child is smoking cannabis at 14?
Give over.
Well, that's more or less what she's saying in the text.
Sandra. I don't hope your child grows up and smokes cannabis or anything, but you do. You sit there and you are sanctimonious, and you go on about being perfect, and just, you haven't got a clue. We all think our kids are little angels, and then as they grow up, you go, oh God, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Sandra, I think
it's like that woman. It's like that woman that rings our show. What's her name? Breda, yeah.
Breda.
And she rings in and says, I know where my daughters are all the time.
No, she doesn't.
Seriously.
She just hasn't got to that stage in life.
And all parents like that do to their children, is make them better liars.
Sandra, I'm sorry.
Am I right, Sandra?
Yeah.
Sandra, I'm sorry, I'm not going to back down on this, because I believe that if your child is smoking cannabis at 14, you have failed as a parent. I'm sorry. You have, if your child
at 14, yes, I do agree with you. At 14,
oh, so you are agreeing with me?
Ridiculous. No, but when they're out there in the big bad world, unless you have kids that are going to come home, be totally honest with you, they are going to lie to you.
No, not if you've raised them. Not if you've raised them correctly.
Really?
I think.
Sorry. So Jeremy never told a lie when he was a teenager either. My God,
Jeremy,
almighty.
did you smoke did you drink in the fields?
No, he never did. He never did that. He never smoked cigarettes. He never did.
Never knacker drank.
He never did any of that. No.
And
Sandra, much and all, I'm not overly proud of it. I did all of those things.
Sorry, Sandra. Hang on a second. The two of you shut up for a second, because you're both annoying me. It's not a badge of honour to say you were knackered drinking at 14.
We're not saying it's...
No, you are.
I just said I'm not overly proud of it.
You are both...
But it is part of growing up.
You are both normalising knackered drinking at 14, and that is wrong.
Absolutely.
Nor am I.
You are, Sandra, because you were more or less...
normalising knackered drinking.
You were more or less making out that I was a fuddy-duddy because I wasn't drinking in fields at 14. That's wrong.
But it adds to the argument that you live in a bubble. You live in an absolute bubble.
Okay. It's part and parcel of what children do. It's not right.
And you just have to accept
what they do.
Yes.
No, that's not part of it. That's why.
Jeremy, can I just say one thing, right?
Go on.
I have two sons, right?
Yeah.
And I was going, oh God, my kids never do that. My kids never do that, right? They grew up and they have done A, B, C, good things. They have 99% of the time being good.
Sandra, I would say the exact same about my two. My two are 23 and 20, and Jeremy just said a minute ago they're little angels. They're far from little angels.
No,
I know
angels.
bloody well they're not little angels. In front of Daddy they might be, but I know
mine aren't.
Yeah, I know well my son and daughter aren't little angels.
Hang on, Adrian, your kids turned out okay. They're not.
Yeah, they have turned out okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Neither of them take drugs, and neither of them were parents at like 14 or 15. Yeah. So you've done all right.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the point, but they're not little angels.
But Sandra, what I'm getting at is here the parents nowadays, like yourself, normalising and making out that, you know, if your 15-year-old is smoking cannabis, sure, that's just the way of the world.
That's not what she's saying. That's not what she's saying. No, she's not saying that.
I'm not normalising it. And my children didn't drink until they were 18.
What she's saying is, whether we like it or not, it is a sad reality of teenage life, whether you like it or not.
Okay, and what I'm saying, Sandra, is whether you like it or not, yes, but I don't like it. That's all I'm saying. I don't like
it. None of us like it.
None of us do. Okay,
but then we're all in agreement, lads.
Let me just... Yeah, but you're saying, it doesn't happen. It won't happen to my child.
No, excuse me, I didn't say that.
You did.
I said it won't happen to my child.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
No, what I said was, and I'll repeat... By the way, you can find the quote where I said that, because I didn't. What I said was, if my child is smoking cannabis at 14 years of age, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, I have failed as a parent.
Okay, let me just squeeze. We're way out of time here. John, you're on 98 FM. How are you, John?
How's it going, Jeremy?
Hey, John.
What do you want to say, John?
I just want to bring it back to what he was saying there, just about being a failed parent. I think that's utter nonsense. If your kid has a drink before he's 18, have you failed as a parent? If he has a cigarette before he's 18, have you failed as a parent?
No, but if your child is...
No, they're fair questions. They're fair questions.
Will you let me answer the question? If your child, and I only saw this the other day on Camden Street, I saw a couple of kids about 11 or 12 puffing on cigarettes on the side of the street. Yeah, their parents have failed. But if you're smoking or drinking at 17, no.
Okay, I was smoking and drinking when I was 14. Did my parents fail? Yeah.
Your parents...
They failed, did they?
Well, Adrian, your parents failed on a number of counts.
Really?
Yeah. You're not exactly an exemplary person, are you?
Oh, here we go.
No, but you're not.
Sorry, you just said as a parent I succeeded. I brought up 2 wonderful children. There, what more role?
You as a
what
person.
more of a role in life can you have?
I'm talking you
and I hope your young fella turns out as well as my 2 kids have.
So do I.
Yeah, there you go. Jane, you're on 98 FM. Last call on this, Jane. What do you want to say?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I was taking cannabis. I was in agony with pain. Now I was crawling around the bed. Then I get down on the floor and I'd be on my hands and knees on 2 pillows on the floor.
Okay, so you were using it for pain relief?
I was using it for pain relief.
And you became addicted to it?
Well, I can't. What happened was, after about 6 months, my son said to me one day, and he was married and all the time, and he says to me, "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" He says, and he says, "You're not taking too much of that shit." So I was cooking lunch for my husband, and they were going out. So I says, "Oh hell!" This went from kind of a €50 block then at that time, for that would last me maybe 3 weeks. And then it came, within 6 months, I was buying one every fortnight and then every week.
But was it an addiction, for want of a better word, to the relief that it gave you?
Yes.
Yes, you see, I think that's different.
Yeah.
I think that's different.
And in fairness,
we all crave pain relief when we have pain, and we take whatever we can.
When I had a really bad toothache last year, I was popping Nurofen Plus.
Like they were going out of fashion.
And I would have done anything to get rid of the pain. And this wasn't a conversation about cannabis for medicinal use.
No,
it wasn't even a conversation about legalising cannabis. It was a 2-pronged conversation. The first one was, should the sale of cannabis paraphernalia be banned? I believe it should, because it's encouraging young people to smoke cannabis. And secondly, I suppose, have you failed as a parent if your young fella's out drinking and smoking cannabis at 14? In my personal opinion, yes, you have.
Okay. I'd send my mum and dad a message later on telling them, Jeremy said you failed as parents. That's such an insult. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks.
If it's happening in Dublin, we're on it.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
We're here every morning of the week and every night of the week between 10 and 12 and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM. Now, for years, perhaps somewhat unsuccessfully, the drug methadone has been used to wean people off heroin. Now, it does succeed in getting them off heroin, but just moves the addiction onto another drug. Many, many people are on the drug for a decade or more. Well, a new, said to be much more effective and less addictive drug is called Suboxone. It's to be introduced here in Ireland, but it costs up to 10 times as much as methadone, but is said to be less addictive and harder to abuse. I'm joined on the line by Tony Gagan, who's the Chief Executive of the Merchants Quay Project. Tony, welcome to 98 FM. Tony, firstly, before we find out about this new drug, methadone, a lot of people see as a failure in terms of its ability to treat people effectively.
Well, obviously there's a lot of debate about that, Adrian. Methadone basically is a substitution treatment for heroin. I would say it is widely used right across the world. Now, in other jurisdictions, they'd have a number of options. They would use methadone, but they might also use, Suboxone or similar other agents as well. The problem is not with methadone itself. It's I think, what sort of supports are put in additionally to support people. In Ireland, we've got about 10,000 people on methadone. As you said yourself, over half of them on it up to 10 years. I know I've come across people who've been on it 15 to 18 to 20 years. And really, that's not the function. The main thinking behind methadone was that you provided this substitution drug for people that are addicted to heroin, that provides a platform that takes them out of the whole type of vicious circle of looking for drugs, looking for money for drugs, taking drugs, that just keeps spinning on, and gives time to work with the person to address the issues that underpin their addiction. What's tended to happen is that people have been put on methadone, but the additional resources haven't been put in, and that's why you end up with people on methadone for
Okay, but we also have the issue of the widespread abuse and distribution of methadone.
That's true. There is a black market value for methadone. Certainly it was much worse in the past before the methadone protocol was brought in place, which was legislation basically to make sure that the only doctors that can prescribe methadone are doctors that are registered as part of the central treatment list and have done some specific training in methadone. Your ordinary or average GP can't prescribe methadone unless they're engaged in this scheme, and that has regulated the availability of methadone to a huge extent. But notwithstanding that, there's always some leakage onto the black market.
Now, tell me about this, what you know about this new drug. Well, it's not a new drug, it's been around for quite some time, but it is to be used in the Irish market, Suboxone. Tell me about it. Yeah,
it's actually buprenorphine is the active agent in it. And it has been, as you say, it's been around for a long, long time. It's used, in other countries quite a lot. It's the main drug that's used in France, for example, for detox. It's used widely in the States, etc. as well. So it's just another formulation. What's interesting about it is, one, that its half-life isn't as long, so it doesn't stay in your system as long as methadone does, which makes it easier to detox from, that the withdrawals are less severe. And two, the formulation, they also mix it with an anti-opiate antagonist, which basically means that if you've taken Suboxone and then you take heroin on top of it, it blocks the heroin receptors in the brain, so the heroin you take will have no effect. So on that level, it's actually a good instrument for treatment.
So is it about, I mean, it has been said today that it is less addictive, it's harder to abuse, it's harder to have accidental overdoses on this particular drug. So is that the way forward? Is this drug...
It is basically
the solution.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the solution on its own, because like methadone, it is just a drug. That you give somebody the drug, and its pharmacological therapy isn't going to solve addiction on its own. That people do need to gain personal insight into themselves and into their patterns of behaviour and their ways of responding to things, and how they deal with life in general needs to change as well. And that requires talking therapies. It requires psychological support as well. But certainly the availability of Suboxone will be a big improvement in this country, that we've relied solely on methadone for the last 20, 30 years.
One of the worries and one of the criticisms of the use of this drug is that it is dramatically more expensive than methadone. No,
that's a very valid criticism, Adrian. I think the issue there is, of course, drug companies, make huge profits as well. We see it in other arenas as well, where, vital medications are often out of the price range for people because drug companies are trying to make their money on it. I would hope that over time, in engaging with the drug companies, the price of this can be brought down. Okay, but at this moment it hasn't been. Some estimates suggest it's up to 10 times as expensive as methadone. In your opinion, Tony, is it 10 times more beneficial than methadone? Well, I think if the engagement is robust, it is. In that if you can engage people in treatment and move people through treatment, and out the other end where they become, into independent living and self-functioning, and joining society more fully. Well, then it is cost-effective, because the cost of keeping people on methadone for life, or for huge extended periods of time, would weigh up probably just as expensive, if not more, when you take in ancillary costs.
So, Tony, this drug, Suboxone, if and when it is introduced, I understand there's legislation to be brought in order to be for it to be prescribed in the same way the methadone is. Yeah. But in terms of the long-term use of this drug, is it a drug that somebody can be much more easily weaned off over a much quicker period of time?
Yes. Yeah, in short, yes. As I said, it has the added benefit of having the opioid antagonist mixed with it, which means that if somebody relapses while they're on the drug and takes some heroin, that it has no effect. And as you say, that's a huge boon in terms of reducing the risk of overdose, but also of reducing the risk of relapse, because obviously if people know that it's not going to have any effect, they're less likely to take it, even though they might feel the addiction and the urge to take it.
Tony Geoghegan, Chief Executive of the Merchants Quay Project, thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98FM. I'd like to hear from you on this, on 6797981. You've heard what Tony said. It is much more effective. It is much more likely to lead to people being weaned off that drug, where methadone, as you know, there were people on the bloody thing 10, 15, 20, 25 years. I spoke to one guy who'd been on it. Now, Mark, you're on 98FM. How are you, Mark?
Bad. Adrian, how are you?
Good, thanks, Mark. Now, Mark, you yourself were actually on Suboxone before.
Well, I was indeed, yeah. As a youth, I was in a treatment centre and they introduced me to Suboxone. I had the option to use methadone or Suboxone, and I went with Suboxone. I was on it for just over a year, and it was brilliant. And Tony's correct there. It does exactly what he says there. If you try and use while you're on that, you'll get no use from drugs at all, and actually make you feel sick. It used to make me feel sick if I tried to use while on Suboxone. I made a big mistake. I swapped over from Suboxone to methadone, and then I realised I made the mistake, and then I tried to go back to Suboxone, and it just didn't work for me. So it was a big mistake going off. But highly recommend. Great, really, really great.
So in terms of its treatment, it makes you no longer get any effect from heroin, which is a good thing. So if you're relapsing, it makes no difference.
Yeah, it's pointless. But it's actually pointless.
In terms of dealing with your heroin addiction, do you feel that it's very effective?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's done wonders for me.
What made you?
I think I was trying to be a jackal at the time. I wanted to be like everybody else, and nobody else was really on Suboxone. And I made a schoolboy error. I was just young, and I swapped over. It was a big mistake because it took me a long time to get off.
But why did you swap over to methadone? This is the bit I'm interested in.
There was a taste. It was a lemony taste to it, and it left a sour taste in your mouth for hours. Well, it did with me anyway, and I dreaded taking it every day. Although it was brilliant, that was just a taste that put me off it. As well, it was probably an excuse. As I said, I wanted to be like everybody else. Probably at the time, I was only 17 at the time.
And the point being that methadone, when you were that age, I
couldn't get off. I'm off methadone now, thank God. But at the time, I couldn't get off it. It was just. It put weight on me. It made me sleepy. The Suboxone has the opposite effect completely. Like it was, like anybody that I've ever spoke to about relapse or anything like that, I always tell them to go for Suboxone. Ask your clinic or wherever you're on for Suboxone. Like I would highly, highly recommend it. It done wonders for me. And as I said, I made a mistake swapping over.
Okay, so your point is get on as soon as it becomes properly available. If you're in a treatment centre, ask whoever's in charge or whoever's looking after you for Suboxone, because it really, really is. It does exactly what it says. You know, really. Now, one of the criticisms of this drug is that it is more than 10 or up to 10 times more expensive than methadone. Do you think it is worth that amount?
Well,
I mean, if you're saying it was absolutely...
I do, because look, what it used to do, it actually got me clean from drugs, because it was pointless using. Because if you used, you would either feel sick or you would get no reaction from the drugs, so it was pointless using drugs. So yeah, I do think it's worth buying, yeah.
What do you say to, and I've gotten a couple of texts in this vein. Paul sent a text in a second ago and it says, give them nothing. Let them go cold turkey. They didn't need help injecting it. They don't deserve help getting off it. I'm fed up paying for their addiction. What do you say to somebody like that?
I can tell you one thing. I never injected myself, so that's something I'm not too sure about. But listen, it's an addiction. It's an illness, you know, like it's self-inflicted, but at the same time, what are you going to do? Leave people out to suffer, You know, I don't think anybody should suffer. Again, everybody has their own opinion, Adrian. I can only give you my experience and what I have now. I'm clean now, 5 years now. I work with a full-time job. I've got a family. I've got everything. So
that's great
again,
to hear, yeah.
You know, so I heard about the Suboxone there, and I heard that you were saying it being introduced. I just wanted to let you know that the treatment centre that I was actually in done wonders for me. Like, they got me, I went in there at 16 and I was out and all clean by the time I was 20. So, yeah.
That's great. That's good news. But what I'm hearing, though, Mark, is that wasn't directly as a result of Suboxone because you actually went off it.
I went off it, yeah, but I went off it, but I reckon, for some reason, now, if I was still on Suboxone, that I could be probably, the only reason I got my act together is because the methadone was so bad. It was just, it just takes over you, like it destroys
you. Okay,
you.
You reckon had you stayed on the Suboxone, you would have been clean a lot quicker?
Yeah, I reckon so. That's my point, 100%, definitely, yeah, really.
All right, stay there for 1 second, Mark. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. I'd like to hear from you on this. Are you happy for the HSE to spend 10 times as much on this drug as they do on methadone, but for a drug that would appear is far more effective and far more beneficial for the drug user? Jeremy's here with some of the reaction that's coming in online and through text and WhatsApp.
Paul says, give them nothing, let them go cold turkey. They don't need help injecting it. Peter says, I can't believe this is going to cost even more money. How much is it costing us a year so far? Well, Adrian, you have the figures there. How much does...
In the last 3 years, the HSE methadone programme cost 55 million.
55 million?
Yeah, 55 million, yeah.
That's a lot of money. If it gets them off the drug quicker, says Angela, it's a good thing, is it not? Some people are on methadone for up to 20 years, so obviously it's not an effective drug. So if you give them this and they come clean after 2 years, is that not a good thing?
You would think so. Logically, yes. And you heard Mark describe how even though he moved on to methadone, he believes had he stuck on the Suboxone, he would have been much better off.
Wayne says, I really think helping these muppets is pointless. I'm sick of the government and the bleeding hearts making a fuss over these scum when honest good people are going to die because the government is not funding other things. So he obviously feels strongly about it as well. I can't believe that the government is going to spend more money on addicts. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're working 40 to 50 hours a week to pay for these people, says Enda. And Jess finally says, I'm not for this at all. Let them pay for it themselves if they want to get off the drug. Well, Jess,
it's hardly going to solve the problem now, Jess. You've seen many drug addicts. To say let them pay for it themselves. I was in the Mater Hospital over the weekend, and the amount of drug addicts just taking up bed space in hospitals is chronic. It really is.
Okay, so the question we're asking is, do you think this is money well spent? 10 times the amount?
Yeah, but if it works much more quickly and much more effectively, then it has to be a good thing. 6797 981 is our telephone number. We're back in a second. We're in the middle of a conversation all to do with... Well, I was going to say a new drug, but it's not a new drug. It's a drug that's been around for many years, but it is to be brought in here as an alternative to methadone. The drug is called Suboxone. It's to be made widely available as soon as new legislation is brought in. It costs, though, up to 10 times as much as methadone, but is less addictive and harder to abuse. Also, withdrawal symptoms are said to be less severe, and the risk of a fatal overdose is also lower. Now, the question we're asking is, do you believe that spending 10 times as much on medication for somebody to eventually come clean? You already heard Mark describe how good he feels the drug was. Jay, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jay?
How's it going, Adrian?
Now, Jay, you yourself are on methadone.
I am indeed.
And what did you want to say on this?
That Suboxone can be abused.
How?
I heard a few people on my clinic, if you get the tablet itself, because you're supposed to put it in your mouth and let it dissolve in front of the people that you're over in the clinic with. Mm-hmm. But if you can buy them tablets outside the clinic, and if you sniff them, they're supposed to give you some sort of buzz, you know? So if you're going that way, if people can literally get their hands on the tablets, I can see them getting strung out on the Suboxone.
You can see it going the other, where we have a problem with methadone abuse. You think that this will be just as bad?
Yeah, I think it'll just be just as bad. But if there is a half shelf life on it, that would be much better, because with the methadone, with the full shelf life, like, it lasts longer in your system, and with the half shelf life, it'll be like that withdrawal, quicker withdrawals. You know.
How long are you on methadone yourself, Jay?
2 years now, I'm on it.
2 years, and how are you getting on? Is it working for you?
It was working at the start, and then I just went downhill, and then it's starting to work for me again this year. Now it's starting to work again, because I have my head stuck on it. I really want to get away from this crap. It's just like, it's literally, it's crap you're putting into your body. Do you know what I mean? It's all them big farmers out there that wants to make money, and they're coming out with these new tablets and saying, oh, it costs 10 times as much. I guarantee you'd be able to make that drug up itself, and it wouldn't cost 10 times as much. It's just them putting a bigger price.
No, I get that, but do you know anybody who has been on this drug? Now, we talked to Mark a couple of minutes ago. Do you know anybody who's been on it?
Yeah, I know someone that's been on it, and fair play to Mark for getting off everything. I know someone that does be on it. A few people's on it in my clinic. Now, when they're prescribed it, they have to stand. There's actually a box that they're being built in the clinic, so you have to actually stand in the box. Do you know what I mean? So
while you take it.
While you take it, so you can't take it outside, and they make sure that it dissolves in your mouth and you don't chew it, because I think if you chew it, you can get a buzz off it that way too. But with the methadone, that has an antagonist too in it. It has a beta blocker too. It's not only.
But it's clearly not as effective, because
it's not as effective. No, obviously not.
Stay there for a second. 6797981 is our telephone number. Jed, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Jed? Jed, you have a very strong opinion on this, and that is, give them nothing.
Well, like, basically, it's showing good money after bad. Like, and these people have become drug addicts, and the fact that we have to pay a fortune through drug schemes and all that to help keep them happy, and like the fact that they want to bring in a new drug that's 10 times the price because they're trying to say it's more safer. I'm sure they said that about.
Well, not even safer, more effective. That's the key word here.
They said this great sales pitch about methadone when it first came out. Like, I'm sure it's going to end up abusing this new drug, and it's still going to cost more money to the public, and it'll still end up being abused in some way. People always find a way.
Now, in fact, you just heard, what's his name, Jay, describe how he believes it can be abused and could be abused if it becomes more widely available.
And as he said himself, it's just a new way. The pharmaceutical companies trying to make a fortune out of an ongoing epidemic.
Your solution, though, is what?
I'd say you'd be better off going back to the old ways of just making somebody go cold turkey and just letting the sweat out of their bodies and getting rid of it, and just going straight out and fresh.
So lock them in a room?
Well, they basically lock them in a room and let them go cold turkey and let it get all out of their system, because this thing about keeping people happy on methadone for years doesn't get them anywhere.
Jay, obviously you wouldn't think that that's a great way of solving the drugs problem.
Oh no, Jesus Christ, that's not a good way at all. If someone needs help, you give them some sort of help. You can't just lock them in a room like a dog.
Yeah, therapy is one thing, but like trying to keep them happy by giving them another drug equivalent isn't going to solve the problem.
Jay, isn't solving the problem. Are you coming off methadone? Are you getting? Is your dose becoming less and less?
Yeah, it's coming less and less. Each week I'm dropping about 2 mils, say 2 to 3 mils.
Yeah, and then you said. But
I'm thinking about going onto this Suboxone because it has a half shelf life. Because I don't like the methadone. When you miss it one day, you do feel awful. You do, you know.
But how does that really help, like that you're still have an addiction to a different drug?
And it won't be an addiction, it'll be a weaned off.
But his point is, when you're on methadone, you're literally moving from one addiction to another addiction. Now,
Suboxone you have this addiction to a new thing altogether.
Suboxone is said to be not as addictive as methadone, so that's one of the reasons that it is being promoted. Dennis, you believe that this will be money well spent?
Oh yes, it'll be money well spent. Sure, any money spent on trying to keep people alive or keep them healthy is money well spent. But you're quoting prices there on this methadone every year. I mean, the government, they also pay millions for Aspro and Panadol for the hospitals. I mean, a lot of this has got to do with the pharmaceutical companies charging so much. I mean, we pay ridiculous money here for medication.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
And it's all, what is it, down to just bad management, you know what I mean? Or the brown envelopes are still being floated about, you know? It's just, there's something going on. I mean,
So you believe that
if the experts that you get on can solve the problems, I mean, how come our own people can't solve the problems, you know?
You believe that if this drug is more effective, even if it costs more, then we should be encouraging it to try and get our drug-addicted population clean?
Oh yes, of course, yes. So this drug, we should spend every penny we have on it. This drug addiction problem has now touched everybody's lives in this city because there's people being shot. There's people that can't send their children to school. They spent all the money. So we've got to put in there and get rid of all this. What they should do is get detox centres around the city. I mean, give a person a chance of getting detox 3 times. If he's not into that, well, then let him kick on his own way. We did help. You know what I mean?
Okay, but you believe, regardless of the cost, if it is a more effective treatment program than methadone, then so be it, and let's spend the money.
If we can spend millions, if you go down to our hospitals, you see heaps and heaps of Chinese, East Europeans. If we can help all them out, surely we can help out a few miserable people around there. I mean, this problem is causing homelessness. It's causing all kinds of arguments in families that they never had in there. You know what I mean?
And it's
broke up.
Some would argue, heartless attitude from people saying, give them nothing, they did it to themselves. That's all rubbish, is it?
That's bullshit. I mean, you know, we could be a little bit harder and say, like, you know, give them a strikeout situation where we give you a detox 3 times, and if you do that doesn't help, sit them down and explain that that's all we can do because there's no money for anything else. And it'll work grand.
All right, stay there for 1 second. Will, if it helps to deal with a drug problem that is, let's be honest, making a mess of this city.
It's ruined the city, the drug.
Yeah,
it's ruined the city.
Will,
20 people shot over the past 2 months.
Yes, I know, it's ridiculous, yeah. Well,
it's ridiculous.
Will,
gentlemen.
How are you, Will? How are you? He's basically saying if it's, regardless of the price, if it helps to clean up the addiction problem we have in Dublin, well, then it's money well spent.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
But then you're a gobshite.
At the end of the day, 2 weeks ago, the HSE came out and said they were not going to fund cancer medication for patients, a new cancer drug that would prolong, and Dennis just said it there a minute ago, that would prolong the life of people. We're dealing with a society in here that these people, you didn't get cancer patients begging for cancer at the churches, but you had these drug bullshit coming from so-called lower class families. Oh, the methadone is great. They brought it all on themselves.
What are you listening to them for then? Don't be listening to them.
Do you not agree, Will, that the drugs epidemic is what is ruining this city?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, if we have a drug available that will be more effective in controlling the scourge of drugs in this city, particularly heroin, surely that's a good thing. Surely that's worth the money.
Pharmaceutical companies not to take their whack out of it.
And Will, I do take the point you're making about cancer treatments and medication for cystic fibrosis and stuff like that.
All the funding for all them therapies.
Yes, and I do understand the point you're trying to make. I do understand the point you're trying to make. However, I could argue with you.
Hear Adrian Kennedy on the radio.
I could argue with you, Will, that this particular drug and the problems that the drug addiction in Dublin creates is deeper than somebody who has cancer or somebody who has cystic fibrosis. In other words, an individual with that with those conditions isn't causing mayhem for the rest of society. Someone who is strung out on heroin is.
That's true. And I do see it at the clinic just down the road from where I live. I do see it at the clinic at the bus stop when I'm going into work on an afternoon shift. And you see the carry on of them on the street, and you have tourists staying at the hotels quite local to the clinic.
And I've seen it myself, and like I said, I was in the Matter over the weekend. It was awful to see some of the carry on in there. But
you see, that I totally agree with you in relation to if there was a new drug, or sorry, if this was made available. Yes, it may cut down on an awful lot of the antisocial carry on of heroin users. However, I go to the point that why should they be looked after where other patients and other people...
And I do take that point, but I think part of the problem, and if you stay there for 1 second, part of the problem is that drug addiction doesn't just affect the person who is addicted to drugs. Drug addiction affects all of us.
That affects everybody.
Yeah. And why are you annoyed listening to this?
Because why should there be more money put into junkies? They're wasting their life going on to heroin. Then they're going on to methadone. They're strung out on methadone. They're selling methadone so they go off and buy heroin. Like, the government is they're doing things arseways with the likes of junkies. What they should do is, you have a problem with heroin, go cold turkey. And that's the end of it. They shouldn't be even given methadone. Then things, all them serious are on the telly. And even the junkies said it themselves. They're strung out on methadone. It's just so
that proves that methadone, and I think a lot of people will agree with this, methadone is a failure. It's not working. It's not dealing with the problem. It's just moving the addiction from one drug to another. Okay,
yeah, they're selling it on the street.
I know they are. Yeah, but
selling it and what they're going to do, it's going to come in with these new tablets. They shouldn't be wasting their time giving tablets to them. Like, there's homeless people out there that need the money. Put the money in and give it to them.
You see, I would, a lot of people would agree with what you're saying. However, the point I was making a minute ago is that drug addiction, whether we accept it or not, even though we may have nobody in our immediate family who's a drug addict, it does affect all of us. And what I mean by that is it affects all of us as we walk around our city with antisocial behaviour and drug addicts coming up to you and whatever. It does affect all of us. So surely, if this new drug is going to help and make things better for all of us, then it's money well spent.
It's not going to. As even that other fella says, it was meant to be the same with methadone. Methadone was meant to help them all out. It's not. It's actually made them worse. Because there's one or two people I actually know myself who are on methadone 25 years. They're still on it. You know what I mean? It's a joke, and they're laughing when they're going to the doctors. Actually laughing, getting their bloody stuff. They shouldn't be near the doctor. They shouldn't be getting at them like that.
Okay, so what?
Let them go through cold turkey.
You can't.
For them.
Hang on, you can't round people up and lock them in a room.
Why not?
Because when they get back out of that room, they'll just go back to
where they'll be gone through cold turkey. It'll be out of their system.
Yeah, but it's not just to do with the drugs in your system. It's to do with the people you hang around with and the way in which you're. I'm not justifying taking the drug. I'm just saying it's not as simple as locking somebody in a room.
Most people that even go on heroin, they're starting in their late 20s, where you have a bloody brain. You know what I mean? You've a brain at that. There's no hope for people like that. You will get a certain, probably 5 to 6 people.
So just give up on them then.
Want to come off heroin.
So just give up on them then, yeah?
Oh, I would, because look at the trouble they've caused to families, robbing houses, robbing people on the street. How can anyone pity them?
But isn't this the point, though, Anne, that we need to control that? We need to stop them robbing people. We need to stop them intimidating people on the streets in town. We need to stop all that.
Wasn't methadone meant to do that?
Yeah, but it hasn't.
It hasn't.
Okay?
So this new drug that comes out, it's not. It'll work for the first while, and they'll start getting the gist of what they can do, how to go around getting it.
But you just heard the guy who was on a while ago saying that for him it was brilliant. He didn't want to take heroin anymore. He believes that the drug was much more effective.
No. Yeah. All the heroin addicts will tell you that. They'll tell you
Okay, so you would say give them nothing.
Nothing. Maybe a Panadol. I wouldn't even waste my time giving them a Panadol.
But Jay, are you still there?
We am indeed.
What do you say to that? Give drug addicts like yourself nothing.
Yeah, well, then you'd see a big pandemic in Ireland. You'd see the whole lot of you'd see nearly a chemist. Every chemist would be getting jumped over and robbed.
Yeah, that happens already.
Yeah, it's happening already, but it's not at its worst. That's why they're giving methadone to stop them from jumping over counters to get their next fix.
Are you looking at do you be in town walking around? Do you ever see them all of you walking around? It's like Ireland is like the living dead that people watch on telly now.
And a lot of people would agree, and a lot of people would agree with you. But if this new drug is going to help more to get people away from that whole cycle of addiction, surely we should explore this. Surely we should be introducing this.
The same way we explored methadone.
Now this is going to see, will this work? If this works, well,
yeah, and go on and on and on.
So what happens if this works then?
What happens?
The Suboxone. We failed, right? Say we failed with the methadone, let's just say. So we're trying a new approach, Suboxone.
Try everything so the junkies can try all these new tablets that are coming out.
They're not junkies. They're actually people are recovering addicts. They're not junkies. Some of them are out there to get a buzz. Some of them aren't. I am not out there to get a buzz off.
I did say there is a handful of them that you want to get off heroin.
Okay, so Jay, you want to come off methadone. You're fed up with the life that you were leading. If this drug were able to help you, you obviously would like to be put on it.
I would love to be put on it and try it out big time.
Okay, stay there for a second. Les, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Les?
Terrific show there, Adrian.
Thanks very much indeed, Les. What did you want to say?
Just a couple of things there. Just listening to a couple of your guests there. Was about this it should be called out of your box zone or something, out of your boy zone or something, whatever it's called. Anyway, it just proved that the methadone wasn't working because, as you say, most of the drug addicts were going in, they were selling the supply of methadone to other people and swapping them for tablets and whatever else that you have. They're still trying to get out of their head. I think a lot of the people, they just don't want help. But now, the likes of that guy there...
Sorry, on that point, I would agree with you, Les. There are a number of addicts on our streets that don't want help. They're happy with it.
I think they're just happy enough to wander around the town, as the girl says, like something out of Walking Dead or something. They're going around like bloody zombies. But there is people like that lad Jay there who will be genuine, I think. And if this drug did prove to be so successful, that maybe a trial basis on the likes of this guy Jay and maybe other people that would sign up, I think it has to be something that you want to do yourself, Adrian. I think it's going to, you really have to sign up yourself voluntarily. I think if you start to try to push it on the drug addicts, I think a lot of them might just get the stuff and use it another way to get out of their head. As the other guy says, you can sniff it or whatever you do with it. I think you might use it just for another way to get high. But I think if you went voluntarily looking for this drug and it was a suitable substitute for heroin, I think maybe it would be a good thing. But I don't know about spending a lot of money on it, Adrian. As you said, I'd roll it out on a trial basis first. I wouldn't just go kind of widespread with it,
no,
you know.
I believe there are a number of people here in Ireland on a trial basis, and I believe it is far more effective. So you could argue that it has to be worth the extra money. One last call on this. Will, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Will?
Oh, you're back to me again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. You were listening to Jay saying that if this drug proves to be more effective for people like him, he's not out to get high. He's out to get off this drug. Surely that's a good thing.
Yeah, certainly would be a good thing, Adrian. But I still go, there's a lot of money being spent in the country on the drug addicts to deal with their problem, and being put into other services for the elderly and everything else within the health service.
Mm-hmm.
They can hire plenty of managers and everything else, and they can think of all sorts of ideas to help the drug addicts, but they don't seem to be able to come up with the funding for people to get appointments anywhere in hospitals.
Okay, so your point is, when we have our priorities right, then we can look at this drug.
Then we can look at it, yeah, absolutely. They've survived long enough on methadone. Leave them on that till the government and the health service get their priorities right and look after the people of the country in relation to the health service that they certainly do need.
All right, thanks very much indeed for your call, Will, and thank you, Anne, and thank you, Jay. I have to leave it at that. This drug is going to be brought in. The legislation required for its introduction is in the pipeline and should be brought in sooner rather than later. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks.
The show getting Dublin talking.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
Is it a form of parental neglect to let a child walk home alone from school, even if that child is 10? Now, many parents let their kids go to the shops alone or walk home from school alone if the school is relatively close to their house. It's something that we all did as kids ourselves, and nobody claimed negligence then. Well, a couple, get a load of this story. A couple in Maryland in the United States have been found guilty of child neglect for letting their children walk home from a park by themselves. Here's what got the parents called Danielle and Alexander charged with child neglect. Wait till you hear this story. Their two children, aged 10 and 6, were picked up by the police walking back towards their house from their local park. The parents argued to Child Services that playing outside is exactly what kids should do. But in that state, in America, the law is fairly clear. No child under the age of 8 is allowed out playing without adult or teenage supervision. And our question is, should we have a similar law here? If a child under the age of 8 is out playing on the green or on the road or in a local park and there is no adult present, should the Gardaí pick the children up and then charge the parents with neglect? Or do you think it is neglect to let a 10-year-old child walk home alone from the local park to his house? Now, as I said, we were all talking about this in the office, and a lot of us felt, well, I certainly walked home from school on my own when I was young. Now, the school wasn't that far away, but it was still a walk. It was still in abductable distance, if somebody was of that mind. Is there any harm in allowing kids to walk to and from school on their own, or to be out playing on their own with no adult supervision? A lot of people think that we mollycoddle our kids too much, and that because a lot of parents don't allow their kids out playing now, they're not experiencing proper childhood. Our telephone number is 6797981. You can also text or WhatsApp the programme at any point on 087 7 98 98 98. 087 7 98 98 98. Is there any harm in children being allowed to play outside on their own in the local green or the local park? As long as they're not too far away. Or is that parental neglect? Sharina, you wouldn't let your daughter walk home alone, and she's 12.
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Well, first of all, it was all over Facebook about the fellow that was let out of jail, the paedophile, and he was seen in Crumlin. I live there, and there's no way in hell I'm going to put my child at risk for some scumbag like him to try and get his hands on her. Or any other child.
Okay, so your 12-year-old daughter, is she ever allowed out on her own?
When I can see her.
When you can see her?
If I can see her outside in the front garden or out the back, or when I'm with her. If she wants to go to the park, I'll bring her. But she's not allowed out on her own, no.
She's not allowed out on her own at 12 years of age?
And I have a near 15-year-old who's not either. A son.
So you've a 15-year-old son who isn't allowed out play on his own?
No, not where I can't see them.
So what, do you sit on the doorstep and keep an eye on them the whole time?
Well, if there's a park, like literally 2 minutes up the road, if they say, can we go to the park play football? I'll say, of course, and I'll bring you.
And what, you'll sit there watching them play football?
No, I'll play with them.
But what if they want to play with their friends and they don't want Mammy around?
Well, then I'll see, but I have to know, and he has to be able to ring me to tell me he's at the park, and then when he's ready, then on his way home.
So you don't allow your 12-year-old daughter or your 15-year-old son out to play on their own at all unless you can see them?
Exactly. And anyway, at 15 and 12, they kind of don't play anymore, if you get me drift. They want to do other
But
things.
sure, they don't even know how to play if you've never let them out.
Oh, of course they play, but they play with people when I know they're in certain places and I know they're going to be safe.
When you were younger, did you not walk to and from school?
My school, you could probably see from the front door anyway, when I was younger.
Because
anyway, I have 10 brothers and sisters. We all kind of looked out for each other.
But when I was younger, I walked to and from primary school, no problem. When I was actually when I was 12 and going to secondary school, I travelled about 8 miles a day to and from school on my own. Now, is there something drastically wrong with that?
No, but times do change, and there wasn't as many. Well, not out there. Child molesters.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If you're about to say there were no child molesters or there were no...
was.
Yeah, of course there was.
You didn't hear of them as much. Did you? No, to be fair, you didn't, did you?
You may not have heard about them as much. Maybe our coverage of it is better now. But is there not something a little bit wrong in you not allowing your 12-year-old daughter and your 15-year-old son out to play on their own without you watching them? Is there not something a bit overprotective there?
Now, I don't sit there. I just want to know they're safe. Because if something ever happened and I'd say, right, go, do what you like, I don't care. There's a different thing there now, isn't there? If you just say,
okay,
come on,
so
I don't care what to do.
You don't think you're being overprotective?
Well, I probably am slightly, but I wouldn't say I'm, very overprotective.
Well, stay there hang on, stay there for 1 second.
Okay.
Thomas, why do you think Sharina is off her rocker?
I'll tell you why. She's getting on a radio station there and she's trying to give people the impression that she's absolutely a great mother. She hasn't got a clue. She's talking bull there on the radio. She has a son at 15. 15 years of age, he should be off with his friends playing football and doing what he's got to do. If she thinks she's a good mother, what does she do with the 2 kids when she goes to the pub? Does she bring them with them? She couldn't be a good mother if she's bringing them to the pub with them.
Well, who said she's going to the pub?
But that's what I'm saying. She said that she keeps an eye on them every time. Yeah, 24/7 she keeps an eye on them.
They're never out of her eyesight, pretty much.
But so if she goes out on a night out, if she goes on a night out, where does she leave the kids then? At home. She can't watch them then. She got a spy camera.
Like, what do you do if you ever go out, Sharina?
Well, I have babysitters.
She is an absolute gobshite. Her son has hairs in his arse that into his fucking arm.
Mind the language there, Thomas.
Come on, when you take her off the radio, she's talking bull.
So what? She's being too overprotective, is she?
Of course she is. He's 15 years of age, your boy there is 15 years of age. He's nearly a man.
So let me, Sharina, your 15-year-old, is he allowed to go anywhere on his own?
If he wants to go with his friends to the cinema, I'll drop them at the cinema and then they ring me to pick them up. I don't see anything wrong in that.
Is he allowed with a group of mates to get the bus and go into town?
No, because I'm not saying all children, but he's not going to get into trouble. I don't want police at my door. I don't want people saying that, your son's in a group and he's causing trouble. There's nothing around where I live for
a girlfriend, is he?
Say that again, Thomas?
Is her son allowed to have a girlfriend?
What?
Is your son allowed to have a girlfriend?
I thought it near 15. No, he's not.
He's not?
Why would... No. And anyway, he's more interested...
He's not. So what are you going to be? Do you want your son to be gay? If he's not allowed a girlfriend, what is he not a boyfriend like?
I can't hear what you're saying.
Is he not allowed to have any boyfriend or girlfriend? Girlfriend. Well, we have to be equal rights now.
He's more interested in cars at the moment. He works in sometimes my husband to give him something to do. He's on his holidays and he works down with my husband for a couple of hours a day to keep him off the street.
No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. His 15
His friends are all away.
Let him be a kid. Let him run around and play.
His friends are
Thomas, let me ask you this. Do you see anything wrong in, I'm giving the example of this case in America, a 10 and a 6-year-old walking home on their own?
No, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. It's about 10 years of age, come on, and 6. They're not little toddlers that they're going to straggle off. They know where they're going, just to a park to play.
So you think the parents who have an issue with this are just being too overprotective?
Yeah, see her, she's a gobshite. Take her off the radio. She hasn't got a clue what she's on about.
Well, that's how she feels. That's how she feels about it. That's exactly how she feels about it. Stay there for 1 second. Let me go to Mick. You're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Mick?
Hi, Tom. My missus was overprotective. Jesus Christ, man. 15-year-old is he allowed to walk out the front door and come back when he wants?
No, she has to know his every move. Is that right, Sharina?
No, not his every move. He walks with his dad during the holidays.
Can I ask you though, what if someone knocks for him? Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
If someone knocks for him and says he's coming out and they go out, is he allowed to come back, say his curfew's 9:30 and you don't know where he is till 9:30? Is that allowed?
If there's nothing on the streets bar hooliganism, then you know he's not.
What do you mean?
You see, that's ridiculous, Sharina, to say there's nothing. Hang on. There's nothing on the streets bar hooliganism.
No, I said I don't want him on the streets if there's nothing out there but hooliganism.
But what's wrong with him just hanging around with a few of his mates?
No, he can do. I just have to know that he's with them and that he's okay.
So you have to be standing there watching him?
No, I don't. I can't stand there watching him 24 hours a day, can I?
Sorry, yes, Mick.
My 8-year-old, who is now 9, when he was 8, he started cycling to and from school. Now, the school is at the back of our houses, but he has to cycle around the long way to get to it. Now, he comes in and he goes out the door whenever he wants. He doesn't go further than the estate, because obviously he's only 9. But I don't go out and monitor him like that.
You're not sitting
you won't have a streetwise child if you don't let them experience at least some bloody aspect of the childhood.
See, this is the reality of it, Sharina, that you're not bringing your child or children up to be streetwise. They need to be streetwise in order to survive, basically.
Yeah, I know, and there will be a time and a place for that. But just not at 14 and 12.
Right, Sharina, can I ask you a question? What age will he be when he get your oldest now? What age will he be when he gets a key to your front door?
Sorry?
What age will he be when he gets a key to your front door to come and go as he pleases?
That's the bad lie.
So he's asking what age will he be before he gets a key for the front door?
Well, if he wants a key for the front door, he can have one. He just doesn't ask for one.
So at 15 he doesn't have a key to the front door yet?
No, because I'm here when he goes to school, I'm here when he comes home. Why does
Adrian, I had one when I was 11.
Yeah, no, I think
during
I did
the summer holidays, I left my house. Now I'm 31. During the summer holidays, when I was 8, I left my house at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't come back for bloody hours.
No, I have to say, I'd be the same.
What really gets up my nose when people say, "Oh, we didn't know there was predators around then." We might not have known, but they were still bloody there.
Yeah, of course they were there, but it wasn't as obvious, was it?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like to say that it's just because it's more obvious now, it didn't happen back then. Like you need streetwise children. You need children that like
if this was a different child, it was a woman left her 12-year-old at home on her own, I'd be getting thrown for that, wouldn't I?
No, but that's different.
Why?
Because if you're leaving him in the house on his own for hours upon end, like he could do something stupid inside the house. At least if he's out experiencing life, he's getting bloody experience. You know what I mean?
So when you hear Mick,
I'll let him.
Mick, when you hear parents like Sharina, and she's not the only one, there are a lot of parents.
Well, my
like
missus is the same age, and I don't know if she ever hears this on a podcast, she'll bleed and kill me for saying it, but my missus wraps my children in bloody cotton wool, you know what I mean? It wrecks me head, because she used to say to me, drop him around to the school, bring him home, and my son at 8 came to me and says, "Dad, can I walk to school with my friends?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead." Next day, "Dad, can I cycle to school with my friends?" "Go ahead." And now he says to me when he comes home each day, "Should I tell him? I'm not going to tell Mum because she might get a bit angry." And I'm just like, tell that bloody man. Like, you need children to be streetwise. If they're not streetwise, when they go out into the big bad world at 18, they'll have trust issues. They won't know what to do. They won't know how to approach people.
Well, let me ask you, Sharina, how do you respond to a text that I've just gotten in, which says quite simply, that woman has trust issues?
No, I don't. Yeah, I trust people I know. Why would I trust people I don't know? That doesn't make sense. I wouldn't trust them with strangers.
But is there not a risk that you're mollycoddling them so much, well, the two of them, your 12-year-old as well, that when they're out in the big bad world, they don't know what's hit them?
Well, I mean, they're only still young, so when that happens, I'll have to deal with it.
But if you're at 15, he's a young man.
Yeah, but he's out working with his dad.
Yeah, but that's not giving them the proper experience. You need being working with your father is a hell of a lot different than being out with your friends, experiencing things.
Well, I mean, my husband's self-employed, so we meet different people every day.
Well, stay there for 1 second, because
that's not the same as being around your own age group. That's where you don't seem to wrap your head around that.
Mick, you said
your own age group.
You said your 9-year-old cycles to and from school every day. How far of a cycle is it? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
No, about say 14 minutes at least. 14
minutes of a cycle, and he does that every day.
Every day, yeah.
He's 9.
The last thing is, Adrian, there's a house, I'd say not more than 6 hours away from me, and there's a young fella. I'd say he's probably 2 years older than my son, but he when he comes out, he's like an 8-year-old. He's just like, he just jumps around. He just has he doesn't know how to interact with other kids.
Okay, where you feel that giving your young fella that little bit of independence to go to school on his own is helping him to grow up.
Not even just going to school on his own. Basically, my 9-year-old comes and goes as he pleases inside the house, but he won't leave the estate without telling us, and he won't go any further than the estate then, without asking.
But you're not sitting on your doorstep all day looking at him?
Not at all. Jesus Christ, he'd actually smack me if I'd done that.
Let me read another text that's just come in, and it says, listen people in this country, you should take a leaf out of that woman's book. Too many people let their kids run amok, not caring where they are and causing trouble. Basically, we should all be doing exactly as Sharina is doing.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Adrian, you pop around to my house later and we'll low-jack me bloody child. That's bloody stupid. Why not put tracking devices in them? Monitor them. Strap a bloody camera to their head every day. Live.
Okay, so you believe that kids have to have that little bit of freedom?
They have to. Otherwise, they're going to grow up socially awkward.
Sarah, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Sarah.
Hey, that woman is an absolute weirdo.
Sorry, say that again?
That woman is a weirdo.
Is a weirdo?
And her kids are going to end up weirdos that are probably going to be them little scumbags that are preying on people on the streets because they're not streetwise. They haven't a clue what goes on. She keeps a 15-year-old to play in the front and back garden. There's something not right with that. She's mentally ill. Like, kids these days have phones. So if anything happens out on the street...
Does your young fella have a phone, Sharina?
My kids have phones.
Right, so if they're on the street playing and anything...
And they're not.
Right, so if anything happened when they were out, they would call you, no?
So would this be a different show if I said that my child was out roaming the streets, robbed shops and mugged people?
No one's saying that. You're twisting it now because no one said your child's going to be out robbed. Well, you let your kids play in the front and back garden. If your 15-year-old wants to go to cinema with his friends, you drop them and collect them. That's not right. Your child is going to be socially unable. They will not be able to do anything, and they're going to end up weirdos. I guarantee it.
Well,
and it'll be your fault. Sorry?
What are your children? Do they roam the streets?
No, they don't roam the streets, but they're allowed out to play. They're allowed to live a childhood.
You're allowed to play, and they have.
When you're watching them, like, does your oldest son not get flagged from his friends because Mammy's watching them playing?
I don't watch them play 24/7. That's ridiculous. I didn't say that.
Well, you said that they're only allowed to play when you can see them. So you're contradicting yourself there.
No, all the time. I don't sit on the doorstep watching them every bloody minute of the day. And I'm saying bloody now, you're making me I don't mean to say that, and I apologise for cursing on the radio.
As far as you're concerned, Sarah, this is a bit screwed up.
A bit? It's totally screwed up.
I was given the example of these parents in the States, and we're asking whether or not we should bring in a law like this here. Kids aged 10 and 6 were picked up by police while walking home alone, and the parents of these kids have been charged with child neglect.
I'd say the 10-year-old is okay. Maybe not the 6-year-old, because they wouldn't be as streetwise. The 10-year-old, I'd say okay, but not a 6-year-old.
Well, stay there for 1 second, both of you, if you can, please. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can also text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. We're talking about and asking whether or not we should bring a law like this in here in Ireland. A couple from Maryland in the States have been found responsible for unsubstantiated child neglect for letting their children walk home from a park by themselves. The parents have been prosecuted because by law in Maryland, kids under the age of 8 should be with someone who is at least 13 years old. So they were charged with neglect for allowing this to happen. And we're asking, are parents too overprotective, or is this the right approach? That kids should not be allowed to play out on the street. Kids should not be allowed to walk home from school on their own. Jeremy's here with some of the reaction that's coming in.
This texter on 0877 98 98 98 says, that girl is right, as in Sharina. The way things have gone, you have to keep an eye on them at all times. Now, to that person, I'd love you to text me back and let me know, what way have things gone? What has changed from when we were kids? Absolutely nothing.
I don't think so.
Why do people say that, the way things have gone?
I actually don't know what that statement even means.
But people say that all the time. The way things have gone, you have to keep your eye on your kids 24/7. The way things are, the world we live in nowadays. Do people not remember that back in the 60s, the Moors? Remember the Moors? Who were the people? Was it the Moors murderers that used to abduct children and murder them in the moors of Yorkshire? That was going on in the 60s, for God's sake. Has she talked to her son, this is about Sharina, about how he feels and how his friends react? Not all teens are hooligans, says Tony in Dublin 22. Again, Peter says, in this day and age, we can't be too careful. Kids should be kept under adult supervision at all times.
I mean, it's something that actually came up in the news a couple of weeks ago, and I'd love to find out about this. Did you know that only, I think the figure, if I remember rightly, this off the top of my head, only 1/3 of kids have ever climbed a tree?
What?
Only 1/3 of kids nowadays have ever climbed a tree.
Sure, I spent half my childhood
That's
up
what
in
I was about to say.
trees.
So did I. I lived up a bloody tree when I was a kid. And again, isn't that down to ridiculous parental mollycoddling?
What's that? The parents nowadays won't let their kids
climb trees.
Yeah. Sure, I used to jump across rivers. We used to jump into rivers. Yeah. Remember, you used to have when you were a kid, you had your fishing net. You know, the long bit of bamboo.
Yeah.
With the fishing net. And you used to put on a pair of welly boots and you go down to your local river, down to the Dodder or whatever, and you'd walk out into the middle of the river and you'd catch fish at whatever, 10, 11, 12 years of age now. If you did that nowadays, the parents would be locked up. Let me read out a couple more of your text messages. To me, it sounds like that woman Sharina doesn't trust her kids or have faith in what they will do, says Lauren. We'll be talking to Lauren straight after the break. And finally, this message. When was the last time you heard of a child abduction in Ireland? It doesn't happen. I don't know, when was the last... Well, generally when children are abducted, it's generally a family member, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an ex-wife or an ex-husband trying to take them out of the country or trying to take them away for the day. So it very rarely happens where it's a stranger. Anyway, keep the text coming in.
I also want to hear from parents. Do you let your kids climb a tree?
Who doesn't do that?
Honestly.
Really?
I'll get you that exact figure in a second because it was in the news recently. Now
that you mention, not that I go around looking for kids or climbing trees, but you very rarely see a kid up a tree nowadays, do you?
No.
When was the last time you saw a kid up a tree?
There you go. 6797 981 is our telephone number. 0877 98 98 98 is our text or WhatsApp number. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks.
If it's happening in Dublin, we're on it.
98FM's Dublin Talks.
Morning and night between 10 and 12. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. Hope you're enjoying the programme. We're talking about overprotective parents, but also asking a question whether or not we should bring in a law here in Ireland that basically makes it illegal for children to walk home alone. In Maryland, in the United States, children under the age of 8 must be accompanied by somebody at least 13. If not, the parents get prosecuted. And this came to light recently with a case of 2 kids aged 10 and 6 who were picked up by police while walking home alone. The parents were eventually charged with child neglect. Now, is that law the right law? Don't let your kids out on their own. Don't let your kids cycle to school like Mick does. Don't let your kids climb a tree. I mean, as somebody just texted in, the only tree you'll see kids on these days is a PlayStation tree. 3. Yeah. And that's the fact of it. And I was just reading during the ad break there about how kids don't have as much physical upper body strength as they used to because they're not climbing trees anymore. What's wrong with climbing a tree? Maybe I'm missing something. If you're a parent who doesn't allow your children to climb a tree, I'd love to hear from you. Sharina, has your 2 ever climbed a tree?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh,
if
that's
my
all right.
daughter could be an animal, she'd be a monkey.
All right, so she likes climbing trees. And,
oh, God, yeah.
But stay there. Lauren, why are you upset with Sharina?
Hi, it's not that I'm upset, but I just think that my impression from her is that she keeps saying that
you know, if she let her kids out, that, you know, she doesn't want the police to come or blah. It just seems to me that she doesn't have any faith in her kids, you know, in their ability to do the right thing or to choose right from wrong, you know.
No, they do. And if they ever make a mistake, I'm not saying my kids aren't allowed to make mistakes, they are.
I just think that, like, your son is either going to go two ways. He's either going to do exactly what you want him to do, or he's going to rebel. And kids that have been held back and been mollycoddled and all, they rebel and they just explode and they go off and do all the things that you don't want them to do all in the space of a year or two. And your heart will be broke that way, you know.
Well, you know, people actually have said that to me, and like if that happens, it'll be my own fault, I suppose. But I have to wait and see if that ever does happen. I will take the consequences if it happens, but I'd like to think that whatever my kids want, now I don't mean whatever they want they get, but if they want to go here, there and everywhere, I'm their mother and I will bring them here, there and everywhere.
I just think, you know, you should just loosen the reins a little bit.
Here's what worries me. I knew there was something that I'd read somewhere recently, okay? And it was a survey which said that 73% of people said that they played on the street when they were young, compared to only 24% of their kids. Which is ridiculous that so few kids are now playing on the street because parents are so overprotective. Do you not get that, Sharina, no?
No, I don't. And if I am overprotective, well, I'm probably obsessive by the sound of all the texts coming in.
I mean, yeah, but the figures are that 1 in 3 children have never climbed a tree. And what was the figure for, sorry, Jeremy, what was the figure for daisy chains? Hello?
Oh,
no, Jeremy can't hear me.
No,
sorry, a tiny percentage of ever made a daisy chain.
Yeah, she has. She's always doing stuff like that. Always. She's
half of kids have never made a daisy chain.
They probably wouldn't know how, but I like all the games I played as kids. My children play, like dodgeball. They play bulldog. They play all that kind of stuff.
All right, stay there for a second. Christina, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Christina?
Hey, how are you?
Should parents be prosecuted for allowing their kids to walk home alone?
To be honest, I think that's a bit like, I don't know, I wouldn't prosecute someone like for not walking home with their child, but from being like, I'm a 20-year-old girl and I know what the generation is like, and I wasn't actually given a house key till I was about 16, 17. My mum was very protective. She wouldn't let me go anywhere, and at the time I hated her. I was like, why are you doing this to me? You're ruining my life. But to be honest, I was probably the only girl in my classroom that didn't have sex by the age of 14. So I understand.
What's that got to do with having a key for your front door?
Because she doesn't want me out late, so she knows if I'm obviously not home, you know, I'd have to be home quick enough not to have a key. So she knows I wouldn't be able.
When I hear of... I used the example during the summer holidays when I was a kid, and yeah. I think Mick said this a while ago as well. From the age of 9 or 10, we'd go out in the morning, and we wouldn't be back until nearly the sun goes down. Do you know what I mean? You come in for your lunch and you come in for your dinner, but other than that, you were out playing all day, every day.
And no, I think it was different back then.
Why was it different, though? In what way was it different?
I don't know, because... Like, I remember during the summer holidays where some days I had to tell my mum I was going to the shop, but really I was out playing, like, whatever. And obviously she did have that faith in me, but, like, understanding what my generation is like, doing everything. No, but
see, here's the thing. Yes, I would have done the same thing. I'd have told my mother that I was, just around the corner, where in reality I was down the end of the street and I was climbing a huge tree that if I fell out of it I'd be killed, or whatever the case may be, doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. But sure, that's all part of growing up, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, but all of this, having no faith in your kids, it's nothing to do with having faith in that person. It's to do with everyone else that's leading you on and leading you to do these things that you don't want to do.
But we've always had that sort of teenage influence. I started smoking when I was 14 because my friends led me on, or whatever the case may be. Again, it's part of growing up. Now, maybe if my mum and dad had stood beside me the whole time, I'd have never smoked. But... again, it's all part of growing up, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is, and I do understand that, but I can see where my mum came from when she kept me in and didn't let me go out. Like, I wasn't allowed to go to a shopping centre until I was about 17, 18, and I didn't drink till I was 19, so I don't know, I think in a way she knew what she was doing, but at the time I did. I hated her. I hated the way she went on, and she kept me in, and all of the other kids were always out, and yeah, it was a bit annoying, but I understand why she did it now because I'm an adult. I understand.
So you don't see any harm or anything wrong in parents being overprotective? And you were saying your mother was very overprotective, but you get it now. Is that what you're saying?
I do. I understand. At the time, I was like, oh, all my friends are doing this, but I knew what they were doing as well when they were out playing or what they were doing, and I didn't pass me, that I wanted to do any of that stuff. But I now know what she was keeping me hidden from. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but I get why she did it now. Basically.
Have you ever climbed a tree?
Actually, I did in the Phoenix Park lots of times.
Oh right, okay. And did you ever make a daisy chain?
No.
No. There you go. That's interesting.
I used to get married up in the treehouse though with people, so I suppose.
All right, stay there for 1 second, Christina. She says her mother was overprotective, but she gets it now. Should we have a law that makes it illegal? What about that? That it should be illegal for your son to cycle to and from school every day? He's only 9.
To be honest, man, if they brought in that law, then I would, if they put me in front of a judge, I'd laugh at them. It's just like the smacking if they're bald law that's coming in. I'll smack my child if he's bald, and I'll laugh at the judge if he says I can't. But Adrian, before I actually go back to the other, I wanted to ask those two girls something. The first girl, Sharina, she was asked later, has a 15-year-old boy got a girlfriend? Has he ever had a girlfriend? And would she allow it?
Girlfriend, he can have a girlfriend. He just has no interest in them at the moment.
Okay, fair. No, that's fair enough. But it also said earlier that you would actually like him to stay where you can see him. How would you react if he actually did wander off though?
I don't bring him to school. My husband drives him because he's on his way to work.
Yeah, but you did say you won't even let him go to the cinema by himself. You'll have to collect him and bring him.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit overprotective.
If I didn't and he was a hooligan and got a girl pregnant at 14, I'd be the worst parent in the world. So can I win?
Well, at the end of the day, if my 9-year-old when he's 14, he'll have a lot more freedom than your child. But if he comes home and he says, "Dad, I'm after getting the girl pregnant," that would be a failure on my part. But at the end of the day, I'll make sure he stands by the girl and the child, because at the end of the day, that's the choice he has to make and he has to live with. Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's what children do. They make stupid decisions sometimes.
Yes, they do.
And if you're on a mollycoddle, they won't.
And
they won't know how to.
And that's all part of growing up.
Consequences.
Yeah, that's all part of growing up. Emma, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Emma?
I'm grand. I just can't believe that last statement there about your man saying he'd stand by his child. Surely parenting is to try and guide your parents or guide your children to not make mistakes like that.
Yes, but obviously I would guide my son not to make a mistake like that. Jesus Christ, I hope. I'm blessing myself.
Exactly.
I'm hoping he's 35 before he has his first child.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we all know children do stupid things. They make stupid mistakes and they end up with stupid, serious consequences.
And it's that job
at the end of the day, if he ends up with a consequence like that, yeah, hang on. I'm not going to be going around with him every day holding him by the hand saying, "Don't do that. Don't look at her. Don't touch her." Well, you know what I mean?
There's a happy medium. There's a happy medium. I have heard so many times the blame culture out there, this going wrong, that going wrong, and everyone is like, I blame the parents, I blame the parents.
Yeah, but you can't blame the parents.
Hold on a minute. This poor woman has come onto the radio to state that she is a responsible parent who knows where her children are. She doesn't stand by them all the time. People are deliberately misunderstanding her to try and make a big argument. She knows where her kids are. She drops her 15-year-old child.
Yeah, they're in the back garden.
Child to the cinema and picks her child up from the cinema again. He is a child, he is 15. And because she is being a good parent, all of these other ones coming along saying the kids should have freedom, they are children. And another thing is that things have changed now. Yes, there might have been paedophiles and child abductors around in the past. We didn't know about it as much. There wasn't as much social media. There wasn't as much coverage. We now have awareness. And because we have awareness, we as parents can take extra steps to protect our children more. It's about
and
knowledge.
So as we as parents, we lock our children up in rooms and say you can't go out.
Okay, so this is what I mean. Who said locking up in rooms? You're taking what she's saying and you're trying to dramatise it and exaggerate it.
I haven't addressed that woman in the last few
Who said about locking children up in rooms? Did I say
you're the one
children
that's saying because we're more aware of it. We've always been aware of there's weirdos out there.
And,
when did they say we would lock children up in rooms?
Emma, there are as many weirdos now as there were when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
But I was able to walk to and from school every day, I'd say from the age of 7.
Yeah.
Right.
What I'm saying is we now have awareness. There was a hell of a lot going on in the past, as we all know, that has come out now that people didn't know about in the past. If you have someone, and I've seen it on Facebook, an attempted abduction.
But sure, half of them are all rubbish.
No. What I'm saying is
half of them are rubbish.
Yeah, maybe half of them are rubbish, but there's some that are genuine. There are people that I know where it's happened to kids that they know. And okay,
see, the argument I've always made on this one, Emma, is if there are that amount of attempted child abductions, how the hell have these people failed so much? How come children aren't being abducted left, right and centre? And they're not. That's the facts of it.
It could be because of the awareness. There's extra awareness out there now. All I'm saying is I would rather be deemed an overprotective parent than down the line have a what if I hadn't done that. There's a happy medium, and I think Shireen has met this happy medium, but people are like your man saying about locking kids up.
A happy medium that our 15-year-old can't be out playing without her knowing where he is and nearly looking at him.
Do you not think that every parent should know where their 15-year-old child is?
I think they should have a fair idea.
Exactly,
hang on, I can tell you when I was 15, I might tell my mother I'm in place A, but I'd actually be in place B. And sure, that's all.
Because you did it, then that's okay for it to be done.
I'm just saying that they gave me that freedom.
Yeah.
They weren't looking at me at my every move.
No, but are you listening to your caller?
I know.
She doesn't stay there staring.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this: do you think this is okay? Do you think this is okay? I know of a parent who tracks her son on his iPhone all day, every day. She has an app on her phone that she can look at where he is at every minute of the day. Do you think that's right?
Well, I'd say she does it. She looks at it at any minute of the day she feels like looking at it. I don't think she sits there looking at her phone. And yes, I think it's good to use modern technology to be able to be aware of where your child is.
6797 981 is our telephone number. 0877 98 98 98 is our text or WhatsApp number. Get involved with us right now. We're talking about overprotective parents, and we're asking, should a law be brought in that makes it illegal for example, Mick's 9-year-old to cycle to school every day? Should that be illegal? Just got a message from Sharina. She says, this is Sharina. I'm not a bunny boiler. I have a husband and we are happy. Just to clarify that matter. Jude, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. Hi, Jude.
All right, Adrian.
Now, Jude, you you keep your son wrapped in bubble wrap as well?
Well, I don't bubble wrap him, but I always... And I don't understand how people are giving out to that lady, Sharina.
Yeah, why?
Well, she knows her child better than anybody else, and only her, not even me, you, or any other parent, knows what's best for her child. Only that lady.
Okay, what age is your child?
My child's 11.
He's 11, and is he allowed to do anything on his own? Is he allowed to go out playing on his own?
I do not let him. He does loads of things with his friends. He goes go-karting, kendo. He does his archery. We go trail biking. We go go-karting. His hobbies cost me a fortune.
I didn't ask that question. That's not the question I asked you. Is he allowed out to play with his friends? Is he allowed to walk to school on his own?
No, he doesn't walk to school on his own. I bring him to school.
How far is the school?
About 18 minutes.
Of a drive or a walk?
Walk.
An 18-minute walk, and he's not allowed to walk to school. Okay. Is he allowed out during the summer, for example, to play with his friends out of your eyesight?
No, as long as... No, he is with his friends come, or I'm with him. If I have to go further away, I'll go with him.
But who wants their dad hanging around when they're playing with their mates?
But the thing is, either they're in his house with his friends in their house, or else he's with us.
So your child, because you're so protective, is confined to a house. He's not out kicking football or climbing trees.
He is perfect upper arm strength with all the sports he does. He doesn't need to climb a tree.
But does he get any freedom where you're not there?
Yes, he does when I'm not. When he's with his friends in his there, I'm not there.
In the house.
Yes, or if they're outside, if other parents bring him to those events that he's going to or whatever, if another parent brings them, his friend's parents, he does have freedom. But I wonder, it's not that I'm afraid that he'll hurt himself, break his arm. He has lots of injuries. But
has he ever climbed a tree?
No, he hasn't. But he's perfect upper arm strength, though.
Best fun I ever had as a kid was climbing trees.
I don't think most children, if I said to my son, you've got the perfect freedom to climb a tree, I don't think he'd be bothered.
Sorry, well, hang on there for a second. Jerry, you wanted to get in on this. You think that these kids are going to end up being wild when they eventually get out?
The minute they get freedom, because they've been so restricted, they just go wild. That's not parenting. They should be preparing them for life. I'm not saying let them out to run wild, but a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, I'm sure their friends laugh at the mother.
So when you hear this man saying that his child has never climbed a tree, he's never out of parental or adult supervision, and he's 11, do you think that's ridiculous, or is he right?
No, I think that's ridiculous. At 11, sure, another year and he'd be going to secondary school. Are they going to be bringing him to secondary school and waiting outside the gate from him? They'd be laughed at.
I mean, you're setting your child up for ridicule, Jude.
Not necessarily, because next year I won't see my son for another year because he'll go to secondary school. He's going to go to secondary school in Holland, so I won't see him. My cousin and my aunt are looking after him, so I won't see him for a whole year until I go over. So I'm giving him total freedom because he's going to a secondary school outside another country. So there's freedom.
All right, I'm going to have to wrap this up, but Jerry, you believe that these parents are ridiculously overprotective?
Ridiculously. I could understand a 6-year-old, maybe a 7-year-old, but once they come to 8 or 9, unless it's miles away, give them a bit of freedom.
Thanks for your call, Jaron. Thank you, Jude. Thank you, all of you, for your calls. You're listening to 98FM's Dublin Talks.
The voice of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks.